live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve. Little congested version of Steve over here. Should call it Sudafed with Steve. Reeling from your typical winter head cold over here. I think we're all reeling from one thing or another. It's been another week for the boys over here, but we're live and in living color as we are every Wednesday evening. I was hoping the red shirt I wore today would distract from what I feel like is my red nose and my red face over here. This is what happens. You're looking at what happens when the temperature goes from about negative 20 to 40 in the span of like 4 or 5 days. You're looking at the consequences of what happens over here. But braving through the conditions to give you a really good show, because there's no way we could not talk about this movie. I know Joe's already got a resignation letter penned of some sort. I'm sure he'll be chomping at the bit to deliver that very shortly as we get into the show here today. But we're live wherever you may be, however you may be watching, listening, coast to coast. Dominic Guanzon in here with a very decorative polo for a change. Very decorative. Are those stars or are they dots? I can't really tell.
They are like, from your distance, yes, but I think they're like the logo, which is like small, tiny arrows. You can barely tell though, but yeah.
It's very cute. It's very cute, no less.
Thank you.
And we got Giuseppe over here rocking a very oversized polo, very Kevin Smith-esque. I can dig that for sure. We are talking 80 for Brady today. We are diving into that. Of course, there was this very contemplative, meditative, well-acted M. Night Shyamalan movie based on a book, which has made headlines and has definitely gotten a talking point out of a lot of us because of the fact that he didn't, throughout the second half, he kind of ditches the book and goes on his own trajectory over here. I'm talking about Knock at the Cabin, which I also saw this weekend. Thoroughly enjoyed that one. I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but definitely a very good movie. Big rebound from old. So, of course, that's out. So we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about 80 for Brady. We're going to talk about 80 for Brady, give our review on that. And then we're talking about whatever the hell AMC decided to do. You know, even with the news, there was breaking news earlier today about HBO Max's decision not to merge that Discovery Plus, or Warner Brothers' decision not to merge HBO Max and Discovery Plus. That is still a report at this time. It's probably going to be confirmed, but it's still designated as a report. And if you follow sports like Joe and I do, you know, you look at reports and it's like, okay, it's unofficially official right now. So even with that tidbit of news breaking today, I still would have rather tackled the AMC theaters thing, because I've definitely seen a hell of a lot of AMC vitriol towards this move today. So we're going to get into it. The three of us go see movies like there's no tomorrow. So we're absolutely going to have some opinions on AMC Theater's latest move to gouge every last dime out of the consumer and make going to the movies more expensive than the average football game these days. So we will dive into that in due time. But first things first, Dominic, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I can't believe that my wedding and reception was like a week and a half ago, and you guys were there, and you look so handsome. And it really is. I'm still coming down from that, and just seeing everyone there that I know and love, and even many more that couldn't even make it, but sending their love as well. It's nice. So I'm gonna hold on to that as everything collapses around us. Particularly the weather, because I think, are we in for like a whiplash of a year, which is like every year, but I feel like we're really going to feel the weather whiplash this year. Like, is that just me? Am I just getting old? Or is it like, hey, it's kind of just drizzling today. Oh, snowstorm tomorrow. Like, I don't know. It's
been a bit of a. I mean, we live far enough apart that it's maybe a little different, but not extremely. For all intents and purposes, it has pretty much been what I consider to be a mild winter. We did go several weeks without really any significant snowfall whatsoever. But I think the extremes have just been extremes, because we had the the Christmas blizzard, if you will, and that was like not only snow but just hellishly cold.
The bomb cyclone, I think is what it was called.
That was brutal. And it sucked even more just being on Christmas. And then we got, about a week ago when it was just like extreme cold. And, I was talking, not to go too long-winded in this, I was talking to one of my coworkers who's in his late 50s. And I remember the day, it was the 23rd. It was just him and I. He's another DJ. We just came into work. Nobody else did sales work from home. It was just the two of us. We braved the treacherous conditions. And we were hanging out or whatever, eating lunch and stuff. And I told him, I said, and this is where I showed my youth, if you will. I told him, I said, I was thinking, I'm like, how screwed would we be if, like, at negative 20 degrees, gas froze? I was talking like gasoline in your car. I said, how screwed would we be? And he told me, he goes, I'm going to show you how young you are. He goes, before they started putting a lot of the chemical additives and like water mixtures into gas, he's like, your gas did used to freeze when it was like negative 30. And you guys are nodding because you're smarter and probably took a more advanced chemistry class than your boy did. I didn't realize that, but he even said too, he's like, I remember, he's like, back when he had manual vehicles and stuff like that, he used to have to finagle the clutch a certain way when it got cold. Carburetors were very faulty pieces of equipment in cars and stuff. So we come a long way. I always just get nervous on those cold days when I go to start my vehicle. I don't know about you guys. I got a 12-year-old car. There's just some days where you get a little nervous, if you know what I mean.
It does it take like a second longer for the ignition, and you're just like, don't let it be today.
And it's the belt. It's the belt that makes that squeal. It's like it takes about a second and a half longer to turn over, and then you hear the squeal of the belt. It's like if the car could tell you to go fuck yourself, it absolutely would. Moreover, though, Joe, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Had a bit of a adventurous morning to the emergency room, but I can say everything is okay. I'm not going to get into details. I don't really want to get into details, but I am doing fine ever since getting out of there.
Strength to you and yours, my friend. Really glad everything's well in your world too. Oh, we ought to move forward. I know Joe's chomping at the bit to talk about 80 for Brady. I already know. I saw your letterbox. I saw call out culture on letterbox today. 80 for Brady. Where to begin with this? So Tom Brady in and of himself is an institution. Joe and I are big football fans too. And I was thinking about this as well. Tom Brady, who just retired last week, I think like a week ago yesterday, he retired for the second time. What we believe is official. Tom Brady called it quits after 23 seasons in the NFL. I was thinking about this. Tom Brady's been in the NFL, not playing football, in the NFL. He got drafted when we were 4 years old. At least me and Joe over here. Yeah. He got drafted in 2000. And he finally called it a career after his last season. It'd take the rest of the show to go through Tom Brady's accomplishments, and I don't think they need any introduction. He is the greatest of all time. He is the greatest quarterback, the greatest football player. 7 Super Bowl champions, 5 Super Bowl MVPs, 3 NFL MVPs, 2 Offensive Player of the Year, and even a Comeback Player of the Year. If you remember the year he tore his ACL back in 2008. The first week of the year, I believe, he tore his ACL, and that was like the only major injury of his career. But Tom Brady, regardless of what you feel about him, he's not going to go away. And ain't this a nice little piece of PR we got here for the NFL and Mr. Tom Brady, Thomas Edward Patrick Brady? Isn't this a nice little bit of NFL PR over here? 80 for Brady, based on a true story about 4 octogenarian Bostonians. That's a fun phrase to say, octogenarian Bostonians, who are diehard New England Patriot fans, diehard Tom
Interior
Brady fans.
Crocodile alligator. I drive a Chevrolet movie theater. Sorry, the rhythm at which you said that just popped into my head.
Octogenarian Bostonians. There you go. But it is based on a true story, and they've cast this, I think, immaculately. Whatever you think of this movie, I think you got to tip your hat to the cast over here. You got Lily Tomlin, you got Jane Fonda, you got Rita Moreno, and you got Sally Field. So this is kind of like, Sex in the City with a little bit more Ensure over here. 80 for Brady. It's written by Sarah Haskins, Emily Halpern. Those are the 2 women who wrote Booksmart a few years ago, too. So promising writing crop. Kyle Marvin is the director. Kyle Marvin did a little bit of TV work, I believe. This is his first official movie. I guess I'll just start off by saying that, this really is a silly and superfluous movie, and it's a truly silly concept. about four women who win Super Bowl tickets on a Boston radio show, very effectively hosted by Rob Corddry and Alex Moffat in this movie, who are just doing the total Pak Yakad, Havid Yad type Southie accents in this thing. They host this podcast radio show, and the four women win tickets to go see Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, which is one of the greatest NFL. This particular Super Bowl a couple of years ago against the Atlanta Falcons, New England Patriots versus the Atlanta Falcons. Unless you were an Atlanta fan, this is one of the greatest NFL games of all time. Did we all watch it? Joe, I figure you did. Dom, did you? Do you make it a point to watch the Super Bowl?
You know what? Actually, yes. Do I care that much about the Super Bowl? Sorry, about the game itself? Not really, but the cultural event is fun. I gotta admit, not even the commercials, because I know that's a big thing, but just getting everyone together. Usually it's a February slump. It's like, I kind of miss Christmas. It's been a while since I've seen some people, because you generally now, of course, that's all out of the way because I got married and you guys were there in January, but still, I'm feeling a little bit of that. And the food is a massive part of it. And we were all, wanting to see the Falcons kick Tom Brady's ass, but that was happening for like 3 quarters and then did not happen.
The thing about a Super Bowl party when you go there is that like you either go to the party and like something about the Super Bowl will be good. The commercials that year were good. The musical performance might be good. The game might be entertaining, or sometimes you get all three. Like it was in 2020, but it was the 2019 to 2020 season. I thought all three were good. And then sometimes you get the the years where it's Maroon 5 performing, the game is really boring and slow as hell, and all the commercials suck. And luckily, you have you and your friends or family there just to trash on the whole event.
Yeah, like, I usually watch the Super Bowl with a finite group of people. It's usually like my 3 closest friends and my dad. That's kind of generally how the Super Bowl's been, because we're all into the game and we're all invested in it. I remember a couple of years ago, not to go long-winded, but it does go with Tom Brady though. I think probably the worst Super Bowl I ever watched was probably that Patriots-Rams Super Bowl. That was 13-3 a couple of years ago. That was that New England won 13-3, and it was a monumentally boring game. The only other Super Bowl I could think that sucked was probably, again, another Tom Brady one, was probably the Tom Brady Buccaneers Super Bowl when they beat the Chiefs 31-9, because that's the thing you don't want. You don't want a blowout, and you don't want a low-scoring game. You want like a consistent matchup. That's why last year's was really good, the Bengals and Rams, because there were points where you thought both teams could actually win. And this Patriots Falcons Super Bowl, that's really the concept of 80 for Brady, that looked like it was going to go down as one of those really shitty Super Bowls because it was 28-3 in the third quarter.
Yeah.
The Falcons were just kicking ass. And I remember it because me and my buddies, we started to turn our attention a little bit away to the game, talking. I think, if I'm not mistaken, was that the Super Bowl when the Cloverfield paradox was teased? I think it might have been.
Not teased, released, essentially, right?
Released, then teased, then released.
Like an hour later or something.
That was the season before.
That was the season before.
Season after. You're right. Season after.
I knew that was when it was teased at like the second quarter, and then it dropped after the Super Bowl.
Like, because I remember whose house I was when that happened.
Sure.
And because I remember whose house I was when I betted that the Atlanta Falcons were gonna win, and I remember whose house I was at when the Cloverfield Paradox trailer dropped. And then there was shadow dropping in on the Netflix, and I stayed at that house till like 2 a.m. because we watched the movie right after.
Yeah, I was just wondering because I remember we were talking about something, and something distracted us from the game. But then, like, the Patriots slowly started to creep back in, and this was also the meaningful Super Bowl after they won, first and only Super Bowl to go to overtime. I think over 30 Super Bowl records were broken during that game, the Falcons-Patriots. The other thing that was noteworthy about this Super Bowl, if you remember, this is when the GOAT moniker started to get assigned to Tom Brady, was after that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Was after the Patriots came back and won that Super Bowl. Then you started hearing people say, yeah, I think Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time, not Joe Montana. I think it's time to say
You
Tom.
could have made that argument even before that
You
game.
could have. You absolutely could have. The thing was, though, he hadn't like. It was also that was that the Deflategate season too? They start to put them together
That was before, I think.
because he did win the Super Bowl the Deflategate year too.
I think that Super Bowl. I think they were facing Seattle in that season.
We really don't want to talk about this movie, do we?
I just get caught up in talking about. I just get caught up in talking about talking about football and everything like that. So
I'm excited.
The Deflategate was the 2014-2015 season.
Okay, got it. Okay, yeah. Anyway, though, so 80 for Brady. I just want to throw out there, too, it was really fun to relive that Super Bowl on the big screen. I'm like, the NFL really needs to think about getting a Super Bowl or something on the big screen at an AMC.
I've been waiting for the fucking Cubs World Series win to be adapted into a film in some sort of way. Like, where the hell's my 80 for, I don't know, Bryant or whatever?
I'm surprised that the NFL doesn't do that, like with an actual game, put it on the big screen, like a Fathom event, and charge like $20 a ticket. I swear to you, telling me people wouldn't go see that?
I would go see it, honestly, for
I'd go see it at least once.
Super Bowl game, but like playoff games, hell yeah.
A playoff game for sure. But anyway,
some diehard fans, I bet they could even like relive a Super Bowl, like an actual Super Bowl. Like, hey, here's all 4 hours of that Super Bowl.
Dude, take my $20 right now. I will go watch the 1985 Bears Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, hey, one night only, we're gonna
take
big
my
theater.
Money. Take my money. Shit. Anyway, but yeah, again, Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, Rita Moreno, Sally Field in 80 for Brady. I will say that there's a lot of, I would say, average to mediocre comedy in this movie. And I would say some of the bigger gags do not work. But the one thing that I was really skeptical about was that this would simply be a vanity project for Brady and really sterling PR for the NFL. It is both of those things, but it is also packed with a bit more heart and a bit more of a soul than I think a lot of people are going to expect. And with that, I'll throw it over to you, Joe.
Oh, all right. So last night, I realized, okay, I didn't put my Letterboxd review on, and I was like, typically, I don't try to post them before the show because, I don't want Steve seeing what I thought about the movie. But I thought, wouldn't it be funny if I posted something like, Steve, if you're reading this, this is my resignation from reviewing future Tom Brady projects. Signed, Joe Viso. And then gave him my rating and everything, which I'll give at the end of the show. But to go off of what Steve was saying there at the end, yeah, for me, the comedy to me in this movie was from mediocre to bad. Sometimes I got a good gag, laugh out of something. Sometimes I was really impressed that the movie was kind of self-aware and knew what kind of movie it was, and just got really, really wacky by having bobblehead Tom Brady's talk to people, or taking edibles and seeing cameos of a certain celebrity. I was sitting there, I was watching the movie, and just there are just moments in this movie though, but outside of the really wacky shit like that, there's a lot of sitcom humor in this. And I don't mind sitcom humor. I've grown up with sitcoms. For the most part, I like sitcoms. But there's a certain delivery and actual art to doing a sitcom. You have stuff like Modern Family, The Office, stuff like that. Hell, even How I Met Your Mother. And then you have stuff like 2.5 Men and some other sitcoms that probably got canceled after one season because they're just not that good. And unfortunately for me, this movie kind of falls on the latter with that. There's literally a gag where I think it's Sally Field and her husband. Her husband's leaving for work, and there's a whole gag with him having his pants loosened and everything, and it's just oh Jesus Christ, it's I'm sitting here watching this movie like that. That being said, did I hate this movie? Because a lot of people knew I was going to go see it. And let me say this. My opinion of this movie will not change whether or not you go see this movie. Because if you're... when you see a movie like 80 for Brady, I'm going to go see that movie, or fuck that movie, I'm not seeing it. For me, I didn't hate this movie. It's actually very heartwarming in some ways that Steve said. It does pull the strings in some emotional ways. It didn't hit me emotionally, but like I can definitely see it working for the audience, especially the demographic this is catered to, which is older women. There was a bunch of lady night screenings happening at every theater I saw around me. I didn't go to one of them, even though I like it would have been great if I went to one of them, because like there was this like perfect period of time between Dom's ceremony for his wedding and Dom's reception that I could have gone to see 80 for Brady and knocked this out like 2 weeks ahead of time. But I would have been
if you had shown up late, but for that reason, I would not have blamed you.
You probably would have been able to pull a couple shawties in your Sunday best.
Just rolling with a bunch of 80-year-old women.
Hell yeah.
You'd be getting AARP benefits. You'd be getting a free slice of pie at Baker Square.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, like, I could see it definitely working for that. Like, I had like 3 of my friends that knew I was going to go see this. Like, all right, so is it going to be on your worst stuff list? No, God, no. It's not even close. I doubt it will ever be. It's never going to be on my worst stuff list. The movie, like, to me, I've seen movies like this before, where it has 4 legendary actors and they do something goofy, wacky, sitcom-y. We mentioned it last week when we were talking about the movie we were about to review, which is 80 for Brady. We mentioned Las Vegas with De Niro, Freeman. I forgot like 2 of the other actors in that movie.
Michael Caine, I want to say.
I think it's Douglas, actually, maybe. I don't
Michael
know.
Douglas. Michael Douglas.
You're thinking of that heist movie.
The heist movie.
I'm thinking of Going in
I like
Style.
that one, actually.
It's Kevin Kline and Michael Douglas.
You know, there's stuff like Red. Like, I like the first Red. I don't like Red 2. In Las Vegas, I don't like Las Vegas. Where I just think, like, oh, this humor is just not working. And it really sucks that, like, you have these 4 legendary, like, actors. And the movie just kind of is mediocre or just really bad. And here, I mean, it is the same thing. But, like, for some reason with this movie, and maybe it was just the female charm of all these actresses, I just found it more heartfelt and warming than Las Vegas or, like, Red 2.
I would agree there. I would absolutely agree that there's a little bit more heart in this than it is Las Vegas, because I think the cool thing about this movie is at least that it solidifies its purpose pretty early. These women aren't just inexplicable Tom Brady fans. There's a connective point here, and it's because 16 years ago when Lily Tomlin's Lou was getting treatment for chemotherapy. Yeah. They all got together at her house. Their television set got stuck on the Patriots game, and it was that faithful Patriots-Jets game where Patriots quarterback Drew Bledsoe goes down with an injury, and 6th-round draft pick Tom Brady in his second year steps in, and Bledsoe never got his starting job back. And that's what propels these women to have this, not only this even stronger friendship, but this connective bond over Tom Brady. Yeah. Dom, your general thoughts on 80 for Brady?
Merriam-Webster defines propaganda as the spreading of ideas, information, or rumor for the purpose of helping or injuring an institution, a cause, or a person. Make no mistake, this is Tom Brady propaganda. 1 billion%. Joe, you mentioned the bobblehead thing where he's like, let's go. I'm going to spoil all the jokes. I don't care. Like, where he was like, let's go. That was creepy. That was weird. And like, as it goes on, it got a little better where there's this running gag where he is like talking to a hallucinating Lily Tomlin. I'm not going to refer to these women by their screen names. I'm just referring to them by their real life names. Because honestly, if they had just gone by their first names in real life, I think that's it. That should have been the case.
And honestly, too, the characters are such archetypes too for a comedy like this as well.
100%.
You have the horny one, you have the one who's sick, you have they just hit the same beats.
There's at least some adequate development. You people.
No. There is. I will give him credit where credit is due. There is, but it's just like
there's at least a little bit of emotional tether to each of these women. Okay, Dom, continue.
And let me just going off that Tom Brady propaganda, aspect, the ending or like the game itself, you are literally reliving that Super Bowl. And that to me could not be any more boring. because it's not even like, hey, we're reliving this. Hey, this is like an actual sports movie. And it's like, we're reliving but like from the locker room, from like the player's point of view, the coach's point of view, it's like, oh, this is like, remember the Titans. This is like, oh, no. We are literally 4 old women watching the game play out in dramatic fashion.
And you're watching
from
the
the
women
side.
watch the game. You're not really watching it with them. You're watching.
What, do you think it was going to be revisionist and the damn Falcons were going to win?
No, not even that. Not even that. It's just really damn boring. And it's cringe. It is legitimate cringe for me. I think even if you're a Pats fan, you will find this cringe because it's so filleting over Tom Brady, and it's so obnoxious. You can't get. I know neither of you guys bought into that at all. I know you guys. It's front, center, above, down, below this whole thing. And that really got to me. I actually found the first half of this movie, first 2/3 of this movie, much more enjoyable than the last third, where it is just,
you know what, I'm in the
all
same boat
that.
too. When they, not as much as you,
Come on,
you're being a lot more heavier with it than I am, but I was feeling some of the same things you're saying right here when it comes to the Super Bowl part of the movie.
And
the Super Bowl part of the movie is long. It is long.
It really is. I was like, it's
too much.
It's welcome. The minute like they get on the helmet, like microphone to Tom Brady,
which is fine. That's a
like,
funny gag.
I was like laughing,
mildly
I'm
funny
like,
gag.
Oh my god! I'm like, this movie's really going. And then they go in the line, and it's just like the Rob Gronkowski and all this shit. I was just like, Jesus Christ.
There is a 1948 film called The Babe Ruth Story. And one of the plot points of that movie, I believe, there's actually a bunch of movies about Babe Ruth, some of them starring Babe Ruth. But anyway, a plot point of that movie is that there is a child in the hospital who has cancer. And Babe Ruth promises to win the game for that child with cancer. He wins the game, and the child suddenly doesn't have cancer, or something like that.
Was that a true story, though? Was that because I
don't even know.
I feel like I've heard that, though. I don't know that much about Babe, but like I feel like that was based on a true. Like he actually did win a game for this cancer-stricken kid.
It is.
I don't freaking know, but it's so schmaltzy.
Maybe
it's that same thing where it's like, Jesus Christ, guys, come on. And frankly, I was even going into this movie knowing that, believing that was going to be the case, and it still hit me right between the eyes with the cringe. I try not to overuse cringe, but it really hit me here. And I'm only saying this because this movie did tug on my heartstrings, but not for the reasons you guys were saying. Not even a little bit. It's tugging on my heartstrings because this is the only time, and certainly last time, unless there's a really good producer out there who sees these 4 women, this is probably the last time we'll see these 4 legends ever in a movie before something happens to one of them, God forbid. But they're old. I think freaking like Rita Moreno's 91. You know what I'm getting at? Like, come on. Time marches on, and it's like it's like Clint Eastwood, where it's like if he were to go tomorrow, his last movie would be Cry Macho. Well, it's one of those situations. And it's like Jane Fonda's last film is going to be 80 for Brady. Come on.
Well, we don't know what she has in production at the
also
moment.
Yeah, that's just true. But you know what I mean.
I have great news for you. Rita Monroe, her next movie, and Moreno, my bad. Her last movie may actually be playing Dominic Toretto's mother in Fast X.
Never mind. That's amazing.
80 for Brady would be a better encore.
No. This would be better.
Conversation.
This would be better, bro. If Dominic Toretto starts like dancing and like they do like West Side Story.
The best part of F9 was Joe Viso as Vin Diesel. Everything else.
John Cena can dance. John Cena can dance. But anyway,
here, I'll say this though. Like,
okay,
yes, this is a shameless. This isn't just Brady PR. This is NFL PR too. I can't remember. 1000%. I feel terrible because I can't remember the film critic who said this. But like, I can't remember the critic who said this, but they said this film, this NFL, and it was a slightly positive review. They said this movie exists in a world where CTE and Deflategate don't. I thought, I'm like, shit.
Okay, I'm gonna go off of that and say this. Obviously, Barbie has not released, but when you think about the story of the Barbie movie and how that movie originally was in production hell for the longest time, and it was originally supposed to be live action, kind of almost 80-esque level of like, hey, this is just marketing. This is just a giant ad for Barbie. That's the vibes you get, right? But now, because Greta Gerwig is in production, it has a hold of this, and she's got the right people in place. I trust her. I really do. Barbie is now something everyone is looking forward to because they're actually expecting something from this movie. And looking at this now, it's like, dude, watching these performances, like the script here, I guess no offense to these two writers, at least they chose women for these writers, but this script is kind of nothing. Let's be honest here, right? These four actresses, these four legends on the screen, they still freaking got it, dude.
They do.
They could kill.
They do the heavy lifting.
Murder.
They do the heavy lifting with a
they
lacking
absolutely
script.
Do.
You know who crushes it here? They all do a really good job.
Yes.
You know who crushes it here is Sally Field.
Yeah. Yes, I was gonna say Mrs. President, the first lady. She's killing it.
Sally Field owns this movie, and part of the reason is, and I know I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume this will be my second reference of the evening. I'm going to assume you guys have not watched Sex and the City.
No.
She is Charlotte York. She's Kristen Davis's character. She's the logical one. She's sort of the timid one. She's the one who kind of grimaces when they start bringing up sex and men and everything, or like winces and everything. But she's the smartest. She's, in a lot of ways, she's the smartest one. She's often the most emotionally conscious of them all. And she's kind of like the lean-on friend in a lot of ways. She blew me away, Sally Field. She also did a great interview on the Dan Patrick Show this week where she also talked about why she loves this movie so much. And it's not necessarily because she's such a huge Brady fan. She likes Brady. But Sally Field also brought up a good point, though. She said, I love the fact that we all got in this movie, the four of us, and the whole heart of the movie is not like chasing men or going through a divorce. It's friendship. It's the connective tissue of friendship and bonding. And that is played here strong enough, I think, strong enough, not to an unflappable degree, but strong enough that it makes this movie, it at least irons out the propaganda side of it to a bearable, palatable degree.
I don't think I've ever seen Sex and the City beyond like maybe an episode or two here and there, whatever. But I do have respect for it and for what it was and what it is in like the cultural landscape. Terrific or whatever. Show. Yeah, I get it. And honestly, like, dude, and these women are much older than the ones in Sex and the City, but like, I love movies about older people, elderly people. That is a facet of life in America, particularly in America, where we're just kind of very neglectful of old people. It's
movies for this target demographic don't get made often. There was probably 35. I think I counted 35, 36 people in my showing for this movie. And I'm not saying that has any bearing on my rating. I'm just saying that like it was cool to see. Yeah. This sounds disparaging, but it was cool to see a lot of gray hair in the theater. I don't see a lot of older people in the theater and them laughing and having a good time. I thought it was pleasant. It was just a pleasant little addition.
Pleasant is a good word here because that's about where it tops off. I think for even most people, take this out of my cynical, depressing brain. And even then, I think it's still pleasant because seeing these four women having a great time and like delivering actually good performances given the material, it's like this is what I was dreading the most with this movie. It's not even the Tom Brady propaganda. I'll roll my eyes, and I did 100%, but like, damn, there could have been something actually great here because these four absolute legends, like, god damn, I was looking at Lily Tomlin in her heyday, Ernestine, the telephone operator, like, bro, she's acting the hell out of those scenes. She's hilarious. She's freaking amazing. And, I think she's actually probably the the least active out of the other three among the four of them, but she's still doing stuff occasionally. I wouldn't be surprised if she retires soon, but yeah, dude, that's what kind of irked me the most, is that there's always a chance to do something better than you can cynically believe, even in this movie media, depressing review landscape. And that's just my lamentable part. Maybe I was certainly asking for too much of it, because with a movie called 80 for Brady, that right there should tell you all you need to freaking know. But like, what if Tom Brady was like an asshole in this movie and he played into it, but he's not, of course. You gotta put himself on there, but that would be funny, right? What if there was like a small dark tinge? That's what I'm saying. I hope a producer or whomever, a writer, freaking Jordan Peele, I don't know, just look at this movie and be like, hey, I could actually write something here, and these, like, with a dark twist, and that's like more raunchy, more, whatever. These four still got it. Something like my dad's been watching Only Murders in This House or whatever, and it's like Steve Martin and Martin Short still freaking got it, and they paired him with Selena Gomez, and that's apparently getting a third season or whatever, and that's still killing. Yeah, don't give up on these actresses, man.
It made me think about it. Well, I'll parlay this into break here. I am one of, I think, the 15 people on the earth that saw House Party a couple of weeks ago.
And is it the LeBron James movie?
The LeBron James produced
the remake of...
And it ties into this, too, because LeBron plays a big part in the movie. It's his house they're throwing the house party in. Spoiler territory here, but, when LeBron James returns from his, sabbatical, his off-season sabbatical, and finds everybody partying in his house, he's justifiably pissed. And the movie, the large part where LeBron is in the movie, LeBron is pissed. And LeBron is angry, challenges this kid to this basketball game, one of the kids who threw the house party. And if he loses, then he has to call the cops. And the end of the match, LeBron chucks the ball at him and says, "Call the fucking police." And I have to say, LeBron kind of let his guard down a little bit. Now, LeBron has historically let his guard down a little bit more than Brady.
Trainwreck is a perfect example.
100%.
Trainwreck was the other example I was going to. The thing about Brady, and this is my belief here, the reason why a lot of NFL fans and football fans like to bash Tom Brady so much, we can't relate to Brady. We cannot relate to Brady. Brett Favre wears Wranglers, and even Brett Favre's a card-carrying asshole after the news that just came out months ago. But Brett Favre wore Wranglers back in the day, and he was the Southern good old boy who liked to take risks and throw it down the field. Didn't care how sloppy he was. Peyton Manning has this amiable, affable exterior. They also seem like Peyton and Eli could be good hangs. They also seem like they could be good hangs in a way.
That's half the commercials they're in, is just hanging out.
It's the same reason why
ESPN hosts that they just hang out with.
Now, Joe and I can't be objective about this being Bear fans. Aaron Rodgers comes off like the biggest jag-off on the face of the earth.
He is.
The biggest jag-off on the face of the earth. We can't relate to Rodgers. We can't relate to darkness retreats and ayahuasca trips. That's the thing with Brady. Brady eats kale ice cream and shit, and he ages in reverse. We can't. The average football
his kids
fan
on the lips. Come on,
can't relate to him. You know what I mean? He's impossibly great. Supermodel wife for 15 years. We can't relate. We have a hard time as Americans embracing people to whom we can't relate.
We're jealous, but we can't relate.
There's a jealousy component to it, but it's also just a relatability. The reason Michael Jordan wins the GOAT debate more than LeBron is Michael Jordan has this rugged blue collar, and then I took that personally sort of edge to him that we love. Where LeBron is friends with everybody, even his rivals. But anyway, though, that's I think that's the other thing with Brady here. This movie is 100%. So sterling. Brady can't be seen as human in this movie. He can't be seen as human. With that, I kind of hogged the last 3 minutes until break, but we'll take our Zoom-sponsored intermission, come back with our final thoughts on 80 for Brady, and then segue real smoothly into our discussion on AMC's price policy. We'll get into that really soon, live and in living color on this Wednesday. We'll be right back. It's Sleepless with Steve. Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve, live and in living color on YouTube. We'll parlay our final thoughts into 80 for Brady, but I'll just say one thing, because I feel like two of the most ubiquitous presences in this movie that we didn't touch on yet, and it's part of my biggest criticism. I feel like I've been the one pounding the table for 80 for Brady, because I do think I liked it the most out of the three of us. But I will say here, the one thing that will prevent me from giving this movie a full-on recommendation is that I think the bigger set pieces in this movie, the bigger sequences, mostly fall flat on their face.
Yes.
I'm not making any friends with this opinion. That's why even I think in the long history of Sleepless with Steve, I've never said this. I am not a big Guy Fieri fan. I'm really not. I think he's a good person. I think he's a good individual. I think he's done a hell of a job, like putting a lot of these diners, drive-ins, and dives on the map, and getting people to embrace that kind of cuisine as a culture. So I have to admire him for that. I just don't like watching him. I find his shtick very manufactured. I kind of think he's hammed it up in recent years for the camera, and I really didn't find him all that funny or amusing here. But I'm not
Guy Fieri versus Larry the Cable Guy. Who do you prefer?
Shit. Oh Jesus. You know what? Like, he's the weakest of the blue collar comedy troupe, but I would maybe say Larry the Cable Guy by a hair.
Same.
At least if you're going to tell me to watch an hour special of either of them, I would begrudgingly take the medicine with Larry the Cable Guy.
Take the Prilosec.
I take the Prilosec with Larry the Cable Guy. That was brilliant. That was a brilliant little thing. But I admire Fieri. I just don't really like watching him, and I don't find his shtick all that funny. So that's just my personal opinion. I expect to be in the minority of that. I didn't like that bit in the trailer, the whole hallucinogenic scene with him. I didn't like that in the trailer. I didn't like it in here. And I also think that, like, I fully expected this thing to have a dance sequence. I fully expected it. And I fully expected it to, like, halt the plot. It doesn't the two dance sequences here, they don't really overstay their welcome, but they're unnecessary. They're hokey. And I still can't help but hold the belief that if there's a dance sequence in a comedy, you've run out of ideas.
Yeah.
I can't help but feel like that. And there's not much new or different other than that. Hey, look, they're old and they're dancing. Like, so yeah, I would say those are probably the bigger set pieces cause this movie to falter, I think, and prevent me from really putting my arms around it. But at the same time, I find this movie very, very difficult to criticize too harshly. Like Joe said, I think the most objective person reviewing this thing, even if they didn't like it, I would strongly have to have a debate with somebody who claims they downright loathe this movie and found it irredeemable and found nothing at least the tiniest bit amusing. And I'm not saying that to you guys. I'm just speaking generally here. I've already said more words on 80 for Brady and wrote 9 paragraphs on it too. More than I thought I was going to. I give it 2.5 out of 4 stars. I think it's a perfectly serviceable movie that your grandmother would probably really enjoy. So it's 2.5 out of 4 for me. We'll go Joe, then Dom to send us home on 80 for Brady.
Yeah, kind of just piggybacking off of you as well on this wrap up here. It's 2 out of 4 stars for me. It's like you said, it's the perfect thing for your grandmother to watch. It's the perfect thing for a retirement home to go and just, have like a movie day event, I guess. Get an outing going if they have like a retirement center or like some senior center at a community like park district, whatever. It's perfect for that. For people like us around our demographic age, maybe even 30, 40, 50 years old, I would say, yeah. I mean, if the trailer didn't make you go, oh, that looks amusing, I think I might go see that. I'm not going to win you over with my rating, nor is Steve. You've made up your mind when it comes to this. I think the 4 legends here, they work well together on screen. They're so much fun to watch. They're taking this material, as Dom was saying, like, is just nothing, and really enhancing it by a ton. I think it is an interesting true story that, like, is totally, ready to be adapted into a film in some sort of way, sure. And if this is what the final product is, like I said, I think this is a better outcome compared to stuff like Las Vegas and other films similar to that stars like 4 old legends and they just go to a place, Vegas, Bangkok, whatever it may be, where like, road trip movie, all that kind of stuff. I think this is a better version of those movies. So yeah, 2 out of 4 stars for me.
Tom, send us home.
I'm going to give it a 1.5 out of 4 stars, not for hate's sake, not to be so depressing and cynical.
That's haterade territory. 1.5 and lower. That's haterade territory.
So I'm sorry, but when Lily Tomlin is sitting down next to Tom Brady and it's just all Tom Brady propaganda, just schmoozing over Tom Brady and like trying to be so schmaltzy about it when she should be schmaltzy with her friends instead. I'm like, come on, get out of here. But I was in that theater almost by myself. The only other group of people in that movie theater were 5 to 6 older women in the back.
Sounds like my Magic Mike screening.
It's 5 to 6 older women in the back. And they were cracking me up. They were cracking each other up. They were cracking themselves up. By the time it got to the big set pieces, the laughter died down. You're right, Steve. That metric absolutely checks out. But the smaller points where I actually didn't like how this movie kind of broke up the 4 of them too often, but that's whatever.
I would agree there.
Yeah. But yeah, the part where at least there's 2 of them, if not 4 of them, hanging out, having a good time, they're laughing. The women in the theater with me, they were laughing. I could hear them. They were talking. And usually I don't like talkers, but this movie, whatever. It's like, that's me. That's me. It's like, oh, that's totally you. And it's like, haha, they are going all out. And that actually got me through the movie. I was actually smiling through this movie because of them. And it's like, hey, you know what? If you're of that age, if you got a nice group of gals with you, and you think this is a 3.5 star movie because you had such a good time, I can't fault you for that. This won't take my bottom 5, not at all. If we had like bottom 5 performances, maybe, for Tom Brady specifically. But no, dude. Like I said, I hope some producer out there is looking at this movie and it's like, hey, maybe we can capture this market, but give them an actual script to work with. It doesn't even have to be like my advanced artistic brain and give me something dark and cynical and like hard hitting that reflects on those 4 legends. No. Just give something a little more substantial and maybe a little less Tom Brady. And yeah, dude, this wasn't the worst movie ever. So
shout out to Beverly and Ethel, who reminded you to laugh once in a while.
Absolutely. They lifted my spirits 100%.
I'm not going to lie, man. We didn't talk about it on the show, and I know neither of you have seen it. And I'm not like discouraging you, even though I didn't like it. I'm not discouraging you from seeing it. But let me tell you, I needed some kind of elixir after The Whale last week. I really
I can imagine.
That movie is, however sad you think it is from the trailer, that movie is like peak A24, take a Valium and slit your wrists. Like it is really miserable. It is one of the saddest, like I kept thinking of the Roger Ebert line when he reviewed Wolf Creek, how he opens the review on Ebert and Roper and he says, our next movie filled me with sadness and loathing. And that is exactly how I felt watching The Whale. So I needed some, and then I saw Knock at the Cabin, which, Joe, I don't know if you saw yet, Knock at the Cabin. Like, that's not that's a that's a dark movie, but it's not like a depressing ass movie, especially considering it's M. Night, and M. Night's usually kind of an optimist. But like after those like heavy ass movies, I almost like crave something like this. So it was not the worst thing to end my week with.
So last thing on 80 for Brady, if anything, watch something from these 4 actresses' career. I'm going to highlight Lily Tomlin's Ernestine, the operator, where she's just kind of a dick as a phone operator because it's the 70s. And it's just kind of like a dick annoying everyone on the phone, but it's just funny. It's not even particularly clever funny. It's just like good Sunday afternoon. Like, this takes me back. This is funny. This is something my parents would have watched.
Ernestine, the telephone operator. God, it's been years since I've seen this. I don't even remember when I last saw this. I remember seeing it though, like looking up these
photos.
tongue
Like cheek.
It's like something I have. It's like something you've seen. It's like, God, I haven't seen that like probably
Mm-hmm.
since Bush was president. But at any rate, I'm really glad we got to review this because did it not lead to a very good discussion?
It did.
It did, yeah.
I was actually looking forward to it just to see how it would play out. It's like, it's going to be this or that. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too. So we will jump to this. Lots of news, a lot of places we could have went. Shout out to Variety. I just want to say this about Variety too. Variety has had some really good articles recently. They had a really good piece. We're not going to talk about it. They have a really good piece about Elizabeth Banks, really kind of like going all in on her career here with Cocaine Bear. I don't think a lot of people know that she directs Cocaine Bear. I don't think a lot of people know that. Elizabeth Banks, she's not exactly the most front-facing celebrity on the planet, even though she's very well known. They have a really good article on that. It's called This Could Be a Career Ender. And it's a long piece about Cocaine Bear. Dom can attest to it. It's a great read. And I've always liked Elizabeth Banks. And then also, I didn't read this yet, but it popped up on my Variety before we talk about this piece. This is the headline. You want to talk about a good-ass headline right here. How the smell of male strippers and a rowdy test screening sent Magic Mike's Last Dance to movie theaters before streaming. I mean, you want to talk about an A-plus headline. You want to talk about an A-plus headline. I wonder if the writer gets paid like 10 cents per word in their headline too, because that's a long one right there. But anyway, the headline we are talking about, you might have seen this if you're a movie lover like we are. You probably see a lot of your friends. A lot of my friends have been making commentary on this. It's AMC Theaters is changing their movie ticket prices based on seat location. You want to talk about something that filled me with sadness and loathing? It was reading this piece, quite frankly. So AMC is the largest. Here's an overview. AMC is the largest theater chain in the country, and they're rolling out something called Sightline at AMC. And what this is it's a ticket pricing initiative that's based on seat location. So it's kind of similar to concerts. It's kind of similar to
the actual
Broadway musicals, actual theaters, like actual Broadway play theaters. So here's how it's going to work. Front row seats will be available at a lower price. Because generally, I don't know anybody who likes sitting in the front row. Sitting in the front row for a movie is better in theory than it is in practice. If you've ever had to sit front row for a theater, I don't know if you guys have, where it's so packed you have to sit in the front row. It is a goddamn awful experience.
That's the only reason anyone would ever do it, is because it's packed and it's opening night. You're with your friends and family already, and it's like, shit. All right. I guess
and I'm not talking about the actual front row where you still have to climb a step. That's not great, but I'm talking the floor seats.
Yeah, exactly.
Floor seats. I saw the worst possible movie. My mom and I had to sit on the floor seats. I had a headache for the rest of the day. We had to see American Sniper on the floor seats.
Oh.
And it was any movie, a friggin' war movie is got to be the worst thing you could see with your face pressed against the screen.
You're just like Bradley Cooper because he's a sniper, so he's like just got like his head like this the whole time.
I had PTSD. I've never sat in the floor seat since. I've never sat in the floor seat since. But the front row seats will be available at a lower price, and commonly considered to be people's favorite spot in the theater. The middle of the theater, that like middle chunk, is going to be the higher price seats. I got to look at it. Shout out to the great users of Twitter. Since they're testing this Sightline at AMC in like New York, LA, and Chicago, the three biggest cities, people have posted screenshots of their apps to show you what it looks like. The front row seats are a $2 discount. The middle seats are a $2 upcharge. AMC stubs A-listers are exempt. They're exempt from those charges. You can still get a middle seat if you are an AMC A-list stub subscriber. You do not have to pay the surcharge. Now, here's the thing with me. I speak for a very niche, finite number of moviegoers over here. I personally like the second or third to last row left aisle seat. That is generally where I sit. I always sit on the aisle. God forbid there's a fire. I got to piss. The movie's over. I hate walking over people. I hate walking over people, and I hate feeling trapped. I have a little bit of claustrophobia. So the aisle seat, I've always favored the aisle seat, and the aisle seats generally people don't go for, but I like them. So this wouldn't affect me either way. But moreover, though, with this thing, this way to incentivize people to really stay home. That's what this is doing, incentivizing people to stay home. And I'll tell you what also incentivizes people to stay home, too. The fact that Megan came to streaming, rental video on PVOD, premium video on demand, 3 weeks after its release. Megan's been on PVOD on Vudu and Fandango now for, I want to say, 2.5 weeks, something like that. Plane, I believe, is coming in another 2 weeks. That just got released less than a month ago. House Party has been on streaming now. It came out, I want to say, the 12th or the 13th of January. That was on PVOD on the 31st. That's already incentivizing moviegoers enough to just sit home and wait, especially with the deluge of quote-unquote free entertainment or entertainment that's already been paid for via some streaming subscriptions. This whole idea of value sightline pricing right now is just going to compound the average person's movie-going experience. The last thing I will say is that I had 2 friends, a coworker and her boyfriend, that went to the theater this weekend. They went and saw A Man Called Otto. Still haven't seen it yet. They said it was great. But between the 2 of them, they went, keep in mind they don't have stubs, so whenever people tell me how much movie tickets are, I'm just like, oh, I have stubs. I haven't thought about the price of a movie ticket in a long time. But all my AMC listeners know what I'm talking about. We are in Nicole Kidman's eyes, we are the favored children. But she was telling me how between her and her boyfriend, after entry and after snacks, it was like 50, almost $60 or so, which I can believe. 2 movie tickets. I don't know how many popcorns they got, but assuming they got 2 sodas and a couple snacks, a theater trip for 2 could easily get to be $50, $60. Easily. For a family, you could push 100. I mean, it's gotten to the point in time, especially with inflation and just the general expensiveness of movie theaters, that a movie theater trip is probably at least as expensive as a minor league team, as a minor league hockey or baseball team at this point. Maybe even major league if you got a family of 5 or John and K+8 territory. But so the movie theater is not getting any less expensive. And I really fear, I think optically this is a disaster for AMC that already is still in recovery mode after the pandemic shut a lot of the theaters down. I think they're still in recovery mode. And I don't think this bodes well optically at all for this beleaguered company in the wake of the pandemic. We'll go Joe, then Dom, your thoughts on this AMC sightline pricing over here.
Oh man, where to start with this? Last year we had this movie. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's called Top Gun Maverick, and it made a lot of money, like a shit ton of money. And then we had another movie come out last year called Avatar: The Way of Water, and it brought a lot of people to the theater. And it made a lot of money. And, I kind of left 2022 going, holy crap, like, we had a non-comic book property blockbuster film come in and bring this many people back to the screen. And then we had it again around the holiday season with Avatar. Despite what you may think of either of those films, if you're a fan or not, they did the job of getting people to come to the theater by not being something based on a comic book property, a video game adaptation, whatever. It was just its own thing. Like, you had to see maybe you had to go see the prior movie beforehand, maybe not, depending on who you are. So here I am going into 2023, and I see the lineup we have. We have we have the comic book stuff that's coming out. We're gonna be reviewing Ant-Man soon, but then we got stuff like Cocaine Bear that I see a lot of people talking about and getting really excited for. And I see all the other stuff we have coming out this summer: Mission Impossible. Hell, we have. Oh God, I just gloated about all this stuff, and then I had a bunch of movies lined up. But you know what I mean. We have a lot more stuff I think this year that I think could appeal to a wider audience and just get butts in seats.
Barbie, Oppenheimer.
Thank you. Barbie was actually one of them. Yeah, Oppenheimer is definitely another. Sorry, I know the excitement.
Putting those 2 movies next to each other.
I know,
just the excitement. I mean, how
and I want to see both equally as bad. I'm not joking.
Oh my God. We have those movies. We even have a big comeback for something like Indiana Jones. That's like a big staple to just movie going in general. So I'm coming into this year like this is gonna be great. Last year was teed up perfectly for like movie going experiences and whatnot. That this year's gonna be awesome. And then AMC drops this. Now let's be real. AMC ain't the only theater in America. Okay, it's the largest chain, like Steve said, but it's not the only one. This still sucks because if this works, and like AMC just sees a profit in any sort of way, small chainer theaters like Marcus, Cinemark, not Charlestown. That's the place where I live by. Cinema 18 is what I meant to say. Places like that, classic cinemas. That's what I meant to say. We'll see this and go, hey, let's try to adapt that and everything. Now, granted, they haven't tried to adapt A-List for some reason. I don't know why, because A-List I think is a great program. But I look at this and I go, damn, like, is this just an incentive to push for people to get A-List more? Is this, what is the point of this? Like, okay, yeah, I get to sit in the center now for 2 hours and watch Paul Rudd fight Jonathan Majors in IMAX. I already had to pay a shit ton of money to go see this in IMAX. Now I have to pay an extra $2. Like, come on. Like, what is the point? I'm not, like, I look at this, and I don't know if you guys have seen this movie, and this is me pulling out my film class buff knowledge, nerdy ass right here. There's an Italian film called Cinema Paradiso. It takes place in Italy, and in Italy, when you went to the cinema, the poor people sat on the bottom, and the rich people sat up top. And in this movie, there's a couple sight gags where the rich people are spitting on the people down below because they're talking throughout the movie, they're laughing, they're enjoying themselves and all this stuff while watching this movie and whatnot. And they're just spitting on the people below and what, because they're watching, like a joke happens in the movie and they're sitting like this. It's very, it's very cartoony and everything, but like it's fucking old Italian film and whatnot. Is that what you're trying to bring back? Like, what the hell is this? The last thing I'll say is this, because I didn't get to talk about this the other week when Dom wasn't here, because this was the week I actually got to test it. For those of you who don't know, I resubscribed to MoviePass just to give it a test, and I tried it out. The app sucks, but in terms of like what you pay for and what you get, it's actually pretty good. And now I look at this as, well, damn, I mean, like, I always love bringing this app up because of how much, movies it got me to go see in 2018. But what the hell's going to happen to this app that's like, we're finally coming back. We have it down to a T. This is it. Ah, shit. The largest chain in America now has price seating, like, wherever you're sitting at. It's like, that's going to change things for their whole tier subscription service, which is based on, like, they have a whole credit system. And, like, the amount of credits you use to purchase the tickets depends on what time you go see the movie, if you go see a matinee, if you go see a prime time, and then of course if you're going to see something that just got recently released. So yeah, there's just a lot to this that's just questionable, the AMC to be pulling this and being like, hey, people are coming back to the theater, let's just fucking throw them for a whole loop. The one thing this article brings up, and I'll throw it over to Dom because I know we're bleeding into OT and we're probably gonna stay on this probably until the next like 10-15 minutes. It brings up how 80 for Brady, with the permission of Paramount, was released with just matinee prices at every screening. And to me, that is a way better solution if you want to get people to come see movies like 80 for Brady than changing the price of seating. Like, hey, 80-year-old people, you could come see 80 for Brady for $2 less, but we're going to break your neck and fuck up your back while you watch this movie because you'll be staring at the screen like this. So yeah, that's my 2 cents, is that if you want to try to bring people back by adjusting pricing, do it for movies like 80 for Brady, where it's like, dude, yeah, it's attracting an older demographic, a senior citizen demographic. They're only going to come to the matinee showtimes, so you might as well make everything the matinee showtime price.
During the Industrial Revolution, factory owners would often ride in carriages, usually long carriages, on their way to the factory that they owned. The streets of London during that time, 19th century, very dirty, gross, disgusting. People were throwing their shit literally onto the streets below. The workers had to walk those streets in the gutter. Meanwhile, the factory owners, they were just in their carriages and they were going through, and then they were let through the pearly gates while the security let them through. And then, ultimately it built up to the point where a lot of workers got freaking mad, and the poor, they just wanted to go ham on these rich sons of bitches. This is a extremely small microcosm of that. I'm obviously being hyperbolic, but yeah, dude, this is like, what the hell is this? Joe, you actually stole a bit of my thunder there about that Italian theater kind of metaphor. And it's like, yeah, 100%. That's what this feels like. And it's one of those things where it's like, God damn it. It's that feeling of what, like, libraries are free. Think about that. Libraries are free. In a world where they never existed, but you tried to introduce it here in 2023, it's like, why would we make libraries free? That's so dumb. Right? It's like, that's money just waiting to happen. And it's like, no, libraries are free. We live in a world where that is the standard. That's kind of what this is, what this feels like. It's like, yeah, ticket prices are the same, unless, of course, if you're a kid or you're a senior, or maybe it's a Black Panther on a Saturday night opening weekend.
Student discounts.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas 80 for Brady on a Tuesday afternoon, it's like, yeah, sure, whatever. But goddamn, really, we're doing the same movie. We're all the same age, but like saying, adult ages, but now it's like down there, and it's not even that big of a discount. Like for where those seats are, the first 2, 3, 4 rows, you should be getting like a $7 discount. It's horrible. It's so dumb. Or whatever. Or maybe do something with the concessions, which they won't do because that's apparently where they make the most money. I don't know. It's like, of course, that's not going to happen because that's going to bleed into what they really want here, which is just kind of finagle into more profits. Joe, as you said, as people are coming back into the theater, as people are kind of getting back into it, I'm surprised they waited this long to do it. I would have done it in 2021 if I were trying to make the most out of this, as people are trying to break into that normal there. But here we are, and I'm pretty much reflecting what you guys said. If AMC manages to get this cemented into how people watch movies, it is either going to influence every other theater to have to do it. It's like, damn it, we got to do that now, because that's just how the only way we can make money, particularly the little guys, the little theaters. Or we're just gonna kind of not kill, but just disproportionately affect just the movie going experience overall, because the three of us, we're going to watch these movies on an afternoon, especially you, Steve, during the weekday. We're going to pay for the very front seat, and then the 16-year-old who stubs our ticket in, they're not going to care. So we're going to move to the middle. Of course we're going to do that. But what this matters is the next Spider-Man movie, the next Avengers movie. Everyone wants to see the new Star Wars movie. Meanwhile, Bob and Sally, the parents, it's like, oh, we got to bring our kids to this new Avengers movie. Well, we got to get good tickets. Oh, shit. Well, it's $2 more now. That's who it's really affecting, right? It's
because now you have to pick your seats, which also is going to take up more time. That's the one thing I really hate about these theaters. I get why they're nicer and everything, like with the recliners, but like, I'm going to tell you right now, when the movie allegedly starts at 11:30 and it's 11:45 and you're in line. And you're in line waiting to pick your tickets, it gets incredibly aggravating to have to sit in line while the person has to show the screen to the customer and they have to pick the tickets. That's always aggravated.
Meanwhile, 62-year-old Danny over here is looking like, it's like, I'm 3 years from retirement. I deserve a little bit more. I'm going to pay for the extra middle. There's already 5 people behind you. You could have just paid and gone. No, you're taking the extra 10 seconds to do this.
I remember when they first brought that in, like the whole picking your seats thing, and this guy went off on the ticket teller being like, why does this matter? Why do I have to choose a seat? And it's like, brother, you already were going to do that. I can imagine what this guy's reaction is going to be now to, what do you mean I have to pay $2 more?
Yeah, I feel bad for because like I said, as much as I hate this, I never go off on the poor usher. I never go off on the poor dude, obviously. You know what I mean? But I'm just like, it's incredibly aggravating. And then by the time I get up there, they're like, I look at, like, they show me the screen and I see the first aisle seat, F12. Like,
Obviously, if it's like a packed house, I will go to the seat I paid for if it's a packed house. But when I'm watching 80 for Brady and it's just me and 5 other old biddies, I'm gonna move to the middle, you know.
yeah, and that's the other thing too. Nothing's gonna stop you on like a slower movie day. Nothing's gonna stop you from paying for an aisle seat and going into this. Now you're gonna have a hell of a time doing that with Marvel and shit. You're gonna have a hell of a time doing that for bigger movies. But like you said, for 80 for Brady, for stuff like A Man Called Otto or something like that, you know what I mean? You're gonna have an easier time getting away with buying a cheaper seat and then choosing the premium, the premium sight line, as it's called. God, they really had to fuss over what the hell to call this, didn't they?
You're gonna wonder, like, that's like a bad business move altogether. It's like, no, don't give this a name so that people can like latch onto it and hate it some more and invest more emotion into it. If I were you, just do the policy change and whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. Well, we got Netflix to kind of backpedal on their password sharing, Nazism or whatever. Let's see if we can bully AMC into getting rid of this.
This is fascism.
Let's see if we can bully. Come on, internet. Let's
never forget what they took from you.
Let's try to get AMC. Like, we hosed a bunch of venture capitalists with Movie Pass. We got Netflix to backpedal on their bullshit password sharing combatants. Let's try and do the trifecta.
This is class warfare.
The cinephile trifecta over here. Let's get AMC to reverse this. I am all for the damn proletariat over here, for God's sake. We shall see. I always tell
leftists who want to like make change in the world, like, bro, don't wallow in theory or whatever. It was a communist manifesto. No, man, go into like video game microtransactions, go into like movie ticketing prices, the things people care way too much about. That's how you make change. That's how you seed these ideas into people's minds.
You got to attack what like people like the minute crap that we get bent out of shape over. That's how you succeed over here. Before this podcast gets flagged as Soviets with Steve over here, we should end this because both Joe and I are actually wearing red. We're going to wrap this up tonight. What a great episode of Sleepless with Steve over here. We come to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening. Next week, though, I will not be live and in living color. They had to schedule the Fathom event for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, the long-awaited horror slasher film, for Wednesday at 7 o'clock. So I will be taking a brief LOA to go see that movie. I have plans to review it the following week on the show on the 22nd. Which I'm really looking forward to. So I will be back. I'm off next weekend. I have no idea what these guys have planned. I don't know if they're joking when they're talking about an Andor series review or I
actually don't know.
I don't know. Joe's been playing off that joke. Have you guys actually decided on what the hell you're watching, or are you leaning towards Andor?
Legit. I mean, we might actually review Andor.
You can review you people.
Like, no.
Okay.
I figure it'll be funny if it's like the only two shows ever reviewed on Sleepless with Steve is iCarly and Andor.
It's your guys' show next week, but don't besmirch it too much. My name's still on this bad boy. Okay. But yeah, I'm off next week, and I'll be back on the 22nd. Looking forward to it. But until then, I will see you at the movies. I will have a review of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey coming up on my website, stevepulaski.com, next Wednesday evening, and then on the show the following week. So very much looking forward to that. And then I think after next week, we got Quantumania, don't we?
Quantumania.
We got Ant-Man.
Cocaine Bear.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Two great films, Ant-Man and Cocaine Bear. Two quintessential American cornerstones right there. Pablo Escobar, if you will. Until then, looking forward to it, but it's Dom and Joe show next week. Excited to see it. Until then, for Dominic Guanzon, Joe Viso, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.